Greetings, fellow Dragonstaffers, and welcome to Intro to Prayers. So just a couple things before we get started. There are many different types of prayer moves, so to keep things simple, I thought we'd start with the two that I feel are the easiest. This will likely be the first of several different prayer tutorial videos. So what is a prayer move? I define it as any move where you're able to keep the staff rolling or moving and you have your hands in a prayer position like so. To get started, we'll have each side of the staff in the inner crooks of the elbow, and we'll keep the hands together, and we'll just try to get the staff rolling away from us, down the biceps, and then once one end of the staff reaches the wrist or hands, use that wrist or hand to give the staff momentum back up towards the shoulder, down the bicep. I sometimes hear this referred to as a prayer chi. This is probably the most beginner prayer move there is, and it's a great way to just learn how the staff is going to move once your hands are together in this position. This will likely be a position that you come back to when going through prayer moves in the middle of a flow or burn. One struggle I have with prayer moves is keeping the hands together fully. Sometimes I'll let them come apart completely, sometimes slightly, but when first learning prayers, I used to tie my hands together with a bandana just to keep them together so that I'd be forced to learn how to move with the staff with both hands clasped. Before we move on, I just wanted to mention that the moves that we're going to go over can be done on both sides, but for the sake of time and simplicity, we're just going to stick to our right side or right arm. That is, the staff will be rolling down the right arm in the beginning of the move at least. So the first real prayer move that we're going to cover, I like to think of it as being a half prayer because the staff really just stays on one arm or one side. So to start, we'll go back to that first prayer chi move, and then we're going to move the hands to the left and allow the center of the staff to move onto the right top of the forearm. The staff is going to go down the right forearm, pivot at the top of the hand, top of the wrist, come back down the inner right forearm, pivot near the elbow, top of the forearm, pivot to roll back away from you. The secret to this move is that it's basically just a forearm roll, which if you haven't already seen, I posted a tutorial on that. Looks something like this. And now if you notice, the only difference is that the left hand will be pressed into the right hand and will give the staff momentum in a slightly different way by shifting the hands or arms over to the left side of the body to allow the staff to roll down the right side. And really, the staff doesn't even need to roll onto the other arm at all in this move. It can, but it doesn't have to. If you're finding that the staff begins moving too quickly in this move and you're losing control of the staff, it'll help to keep the arms level, almost as if the staff is traveling on a flat surface. For example, in this half prayer position, when we bring our arms to the left, we can keep the top of the right hand almost as if it would be flat up against the ceiling and ground, creating a flat surface for the center point to pivot around, like so. Just to reiterate, so from the basic prayer chi position, the center point comes down the top of the right arm, pivots at the top of the right hand, travels up the arm on the inner forearm more specifically, pivots again near the elbow to return to rolling away from you. And sometimes it definitely helps to use your left hand just to guide the staff back to where you want it to be. So to get into the half prayer from this prayer chi, at some point, well, we start with the sides of the staff pivoting and the left and right inner elbow, and then at some point we allow the contact point of the staff to shift from the sides, and we let the center roll onto the top of the forearm to go into our half prayer. To come out of the half prayer and back into the prayer chi, at some point when the center of the staff is rolling up the inner forearm, and then it's going to pivot near the elbow, at some point we're going to allow the contact point of the staff to shift from the center over to the right side, and that right side is going to meet almost the shoulder, top of the right arm, like so. Hopefully you can see the very subtle change in the contact point of the staff from the center to the right arm. So the other prayer move that we're going to cover in this tutorial, I'm going to refer to as a Steve prayer, because much like how the half prayer is essentially a forearm roll with the hands together, this move is essentially a Steve with the hands together. For those of you who don't know what a Steve is, basically the center of the staff travels down the arm, then up the other arm, around the shoulders, down the arm, up the other arm, around the shoulders. And I'm spinning with the staff just to slow it down a little. You could do it standing still, it's just a little harder. So to be more specific, this one's kind of like a combination of the half prayer and a Steve. So we're going to get into this move very similarly to how we got into the half prayer move. We'll be in our prayer chi. At some point, we'll allow the center point of the staff to roll down the top of the right arm. The difference being, this time when the staff is going to pivot at the top of the hand or wrist and roll up the inner arm, instead, right when the staff is going to pivot and go in that direction, we're going to bring the bottoms of our hands, essentially the bottoms of our hands in the prayer position will be facing up towards the ceiling. So they will create a flat surface for the center of the staff. So instead of the center of the staff pivoting at the top of the hand or top of the wrist, it's going to pivot fully around and onto the bottoms of the hands, which will be facing upwards. So you can see that, because I know this is getting a little wordy. And again, creating a real flat surface is going to help to steady and control the staff more. So at this point is basically where this becomes a Steve with the hands together. We got into it similarly to the half prayer, except the staff pivots at the top of the hand, makes a full circle, comes up and around the underneaths of the hands, and then the center of the staff travels up the left arm, and the center will travel all the way until it reaches around the shoulders, and then the center point will come out along the top of the right arm as it would in a Steve. Steve. Steve prayer. Just so you can get some other angles of that. And we can come out of the Steve prayer very similarly, just by allowing the contact point of the staff to shift from the center as it's rolling down that shoulder or arm over to the side, and then we're right back to the prayer chi. Will look like so. And I think that about does it for the Intro to Prayers Dragonstaff tutorial. Hope that was helpful to you guys. As always, let me know if you have any questions or if I left anything out. I greatly appreciate you guys watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.